In A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones, Tyrion Lannister encounters the mountain clansmen of the Vale, savage warriors who live as bandits and outlaws in the Mountains of the Moon. The clansmen threaten to kill Tyrion at first, but he convinces them to fight for him instead, promising gold, arms, and the Vale itself. So the clansmen fight for the Lannisters at the Green Fork and in the Kingswood. They serve as guards for Tyrion in King's Landing. There's some funny banter about feeding manhoods to goats. But by the start of Storm, they go their separate ways. Some stay in the Kingswood, while others go home to the Vale. So the clansmen play only a minor role in the story so far, but there are actually some really cool theories about them, one of which concerns Timett, son of Timett, a chief of the Burned Men. The Burned Men are one of the clans that the clansmen are divided into, along with the Stone Crows, the Black Ears, and the Moon Brothers. But the Burned Men stand apart from the others. They're feared by the other clans because they have this custom of burning away parts of their own bodies to prove their courage, as a sort of a coming-of-age manhood ritual. Most men burn off a nipple or a finger or an ear, but Timett put out his own left eye, and his fellows were so impressed that they made him their chief. We don't learn much about Timett as a person, apart from his ability to rip out a man's throat bare-handed, but some fans believe that he may be the rightful heir to the Vale, potentially the ruler of one of the Seven Kingdoms. So the Lord of the Vale is currently Robert, or Robin Arryn, and he's not expected to live much longer because he's weak and sickly, and because he's being fed dangerously high amounts of a drug called Sweet Sleep under the orders of Littlefinger. And Robert doesn't have any children or siblings, so when he dies, Lordship of the Vale will be inherited by someone in his extended family. In Feast, Littlefinger explains that since most of the Arryns are dead or joined the Faith, the heir to the Vale after Robert is Harold Harding, Robert's father's sister's daughter's son. Littlefinger plans to marry Sansa to Harold in order to win power over both the Vale and the North, though in the show Sansa is married to Ramsay Bolton, which is kind of a crazier plan. Anyway, Harold, or Harry, is believed to be the heir to the Vale, but Littlefinger mentions that one of Harry's mother's older sisters was carried off by the Burned Men. If that unnamed Waynwood happened to have a legitimate child with one of the Burned Men, that child would be the heir to the Vale ahead of Harry. Fans speculate that Timett, the only named Burned Man in the story, is that child, the rightful Lord of the Vale after Robert. Admittedly, we're not given any evidence that this Waynwood woman ever had a son with the Burned Men, but it's certainly plausible, and it could make a lot of narrative sense for the mountain clans to take control of the Vale. Because Tyrion promises the Vale to the clansmen, and we are all told that
The Lannister always pays his debt.
Because the Lannister always pays her debts.
Lannister always pays his debts.
Lannister always pays his debts. And Tyrion is currently working with Daenerys Targaryen, who intends to, eventually, invade Westeros. Many fans believe that the Vale could be an important location in Daenerys' invasion because of its huge mountaintop castle, the Eyrie, which is considered impregnable unless you have dragons. Daenerys could fly right up there on Drogon. So if Daenerys does invade the Vale, it would make a lot of sense to use Tyrion's relationship with the mountain clans to help take it. In fact, Tyrion has already mentioned a plan to use the clans against the Vale. Also, we're told that the clansmen, especially Timett and the Burned Men, have become bolder and more powerful since returning from King's Landing, so there's little doubt they'd be keen for an attack. So the pieces are all here for Tyrion to use the clansmen against the Vale, which could set the stage for Timett to claim his rightful place as ruler of the Vale. Of course, there are still big problems with the idea. Firstly, Timett wouldn't be considered a legitimate heir unless his father and the Waynwood woman were married, and we don't know if the clansmen even practice marriage. It is possible for a king or queen to legitimize Timett, though technically an already legitimate son like Harry would still come first, so Harry might have to die for Timett to legitimately be the heir. Even if all that happens, it's very hard to imagine the Lords of the Vale accepting a savage clansman as their ruler. It could maybe be forced on them whether they like it or not, but it's hard to see that working out in the long run. Finally, we don't know if anyone in Westeros knows about Timett's possible parentage, and if they did, how could they prove it? Maybe Timett's mother is still alive, living among the mountain clansmen. Perhaps she could attest to Timett's parentage. The bottom line is that it's totally possible that Timett, son of Timett, or maybe some other unnamed Burned Man, is a descendant of the Arryns. Whether he'll ever be recognized as a legitimate heir to the Vale is less likely, so maybe this will remain a little Easter egg for the readers. Either way, it does seem likely that Tyrion will use the clansmen against the Vale, and Timett will presumably be a part of that. So at the very least, we'll probably get to see our favourite burned man feeding manhoods to goats before the story is done. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to read some further discussion of this theory, there are links in the description to some relevant Reddit and Westeros.org threads. This video was made possible with the support of patrons on Patreon, including Karen Granstrom, Alexander Deltras, Kingslayer Jamie, Jason Gray Jr., A. Alexides, Teresa Reveley, Lucas Longenegger, Tablemaker, Rugaro, Philippe, Don't Google Me, Podrick Targaryen, Prometheus1334, Fusa Rock, Luterai, Wandered Wild, Shaved Kitty, Nitrazak and Snaggy2, Wheatman, Stephen Schott, and Colin Butts. Thank you all for your kind support.